Alright, getting to be that time of year again. Time to get the old plow out. We've had a couple of freezing mornings and just time to get her going. So a couple things I need to do today. One, I want to replace this other plow marker. I have the other one in the back of my truck. So yeah, I'm going to replace that. Another thing that I think I would like to do today, I know you can't really tell too well from here, but this cutting edge has some uneven wear. It's thick in the middle and it's definitely wore down on the edges. You can see that gap there. So what and also, I mean, there's plenty of life left in this blade. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking my torch and I'm going to cut a straight line down here so I get an even, even scraping when I go to plow my driveways. Other than that, I want to change the oil, and I believe there is one grease fitting on here. In my opinion, there should be more. There's one right there. That's for your locking latch. I really feel like there should be some grease fittings, especially for that kingpin. There's definitely not any bearings in there. That's just I guess a high carbon steel setup there. Hopefully that's not mild. Hopefully it's something high wear. But yeah, and also on these angling cylinders. So yeah, gotta hook up my brackets and I'll plug my controller in and hopefully she runs. So as usual, there was one thing that I forgot to do, and that's to take off my front light bar that I made. And it's gonna be pretty simple. I did hardwire these on here, so I'm gonna have to snip the wire and do something like that. But as for taking the bar off, I made it pretty simple. It's just 4 bolts that you gotta take off there, and then this will slide right out. And then also what I gotta do, I gotta make another homemade plow buddy. If you go through my past videos, you'll look at that, and it's basically a 2-inch receiver with a couple of LED lights and a little bumper to give you some protection. But I want to re-engineer that. These 2 center lights actually came off that backup plow buddy that I made, and the 2 end ones were new, which I hadn't used until I put them up here to replace my HID hella round spotlights. But I mean, they still look brand new. Nothing in the lenses. Great lights. Again, those of you that are wondering, these are 36 watt Cree LEDs. So I'm going to go back home and I'm going to take this off and then we'll get right back over here. So when I mounted that thing on there and wired it up, I must have had some idea as to what I was doing, because I didn't have to snip any wires, fortunately. All I had to do was remove my ground bolt, and then these were the wires that got hooked up to the relay, and I just covered them in a piece of plastic bag. I took out the fuse. That way I don't have any power going to that line, or at least it cuts off right there and it's isolated. Nothing for it to ground to and short add to, even though there's a second fuse in that line over by the battery box. And thirdly, there's another switch right there that will be shut off. Those 2 switches, one goes to the top light bar and one goes to the front bumper light bar, so I'm not worried about that wire grounding out whatsoever. And yeah, this thing came off flawlessly, and I won't have to do any other wiring to put it back together. But yeah, this thing came out pretty easy, and I won't have to do any rewiring when it comes springtime and the plow comes off. And I was thinking about the bell. I think I'm actually just going to leave that on there. I mean, it's really not going to interfere with anything. It does have a welded on mounting bracket, so it's very firm on there. And I mean, the only thing that I could see happening is me hitting a snowbank real hard or something like that, but it's cast steel, so I really don't think it's going anywhere. And additionally, I mean, the plow brackets sit lower than that bell, so if anything's gonna hit, it's probably gonna be the plow brackets. And I'm not doing any crazy off-roading or any rocky terrain kind of crap, and I'm pretty much on all pavement. A little bit of grass every now and then, but that's about it. So I'll leave that on, and we'll run back over and pick up the plow. Alright, here goes the moment of truth. We got power, that's a good sign. And she works. Yeah, so I marked out 5 inches even going down the blade there, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a straight edge and clamp it down to the blade, and then I'm gonna take my handy dandy oxyacetylene torch and I'm just gonna cut that even. So yeah. Okay, so as you can see, I got my straight edge set up. That way I get a nice even cut. And yeah, I also just want to talk about safety, because it's always important to be safe. Whenever you're using a plasma cutter or an oxyacetylene torch, that throws off a very bright light, and that can be very damaging to your eyes. So it's always a good idea to use a pair of dark shade glasses. These specifically are a 5 shade, and I find them to be about the right shade for what we're doing today. And the nice thing about these glasses is that they also can adjust, so that way you can better adjust them to what angle you're working at. That way you have the best protection for your eyes. And in addition to that, I also wear a full face protective shield in addition to the glasses, just because there always is the danger that something will come back out at your face. Always wear all cotton or some type of Kevlar or protective sleeves. You don't want to use any synthetic material, or you don't want to wear any synthetic materials, because that stuff will burn and burn to your skin, and that will cause a hospital trip, and they'll have to dig it out of your skin, and it won't be fun. Also, important to have a good pair of work gloves, leather or something flame resistant. Yeah, so these torches cut kind of funny when you're trying to cut through rust. Now, rust is basically oxidation, and that oxidation on the surface of the steel basically creates somewhat of a barrier or a shield. So that's why it gets kind of hairy when you're cutting through rust. That's why you saw me stop so many times. And what will end up happening if you leave the torch there, it'll actually start to melt the metal. And basically what I was doing, once I hit a bad pocket of rust and my torch started to slow down, I'd kind of hold it over there and I'd get it hot enough, and then I'd take it off and I'd kind of feel out the heat, and then I'd go through and I'd pull my handle and let that torch cut right through it. So I mean, it came out pretty decent. You know, I got a straight bar. It was kind of strange how there's so much wear on this corner, and there was practically nothing on that corner, when I feel like I have my plow most of the time angled this way, which is to the left, or the driver's side. So I guess maybe I have I don't know, maybe something's wrong with the mount or something, or who knows. Oh well, no big deal. And as for grinding this down, I don't think I'm going to grind it down. Maybe just going down the road, I'll drop it a couple times at a low speed, and I'll let the road do the grinding for me.